So the Ellis Shaw era is over here, and the Stuart Donald era begins. Welcome back, guys, to episode, I think, is it 10 we're on now? Something like that, of the Revisiting SCFC Managers series. Actually, yes, it is episode 10. So, I've just done the maths in my head there. Thanks again, guys, to Wearside Life for the thumbnails. As always, what a star. Puts thought and effort into those. Doesn't have to do it. He seems more than willing to do it, and it's just amazing. And then, of course, thanks all to you guys for putting up with this series and putting up with watching me in general. Thanks ever so much. I really appreciate it. But anyway, let's get into it. Jack Ross, or Jack Dross as he was at the end. So, obviously, after Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven took the club from Ellis Shaw in May 2018, it was either late May, I think it might have been mid-June, to be honest, of 2018, that we appointed Jack Ross from St Mirren as manager. Jack Ross made probably about 14 or 15 signings because we needed a squad. We needed to sign players to assemble a squad together and give us a good chance of, bouncing straight back to the Championship, which was what the expectation was. Obviously, we had an iconic 2-1 opening day win against Charlton, which annoyingly was in reverse at the end of the season. But for this game, it was obviously the first opening day win for something like 9 years at that point. Or heck, even 10 years, or whatever it was. Absolutely incredible. Oh, yeah, sorry, at that point it was 9 years because it was 2018. Yeah, 9 years. That is absolutely insane. And and Jack Ross, actually, to be fair to him, started quite well. We ended up after the end of August, we were like top 4. After the Wimbledon's game, I think near the back end of August, we were in the top 2. And then as the games went on, as the likes of Josh Maja was doing well for Sunderland, it looked like, wow, keep this guy, and it looks like we're on the verge of going up. And obviously in the meantime, we were going for it in the Checker Trade Trophy as well, even though it's now called leasing.com. But of course, back then it was Checker Trade, even though Checker Trade for me sounds less tin pot. Yeah, we were doing fairly well, and it was the first time I was actually enjoying watching Sunderland. Not necessarily because the football was scintillating, but because we were winning games. It was as simple as that. We were winning most weeks, and it was such, even if it was in League One, it was just great fun. As Stuart Donald had said on Sunderland Tar Die Season 2, League One's fun for Sunderland for a season, but not if you're getting stuck down here. So, likewise for me, I like Jack Ross a lot. I think Jack Ross, and obviously we'll get onto this later on, but obviously once Maja left and we had to sign Greg, I do still believe that Ross had to get more out of him than he was. And one of the big criticisms, obviously, of Ross's reign was the fact that when we went 1-0 up, we always seemed to be content with 1-0 and risk drawing the game rather than trying to get a second and seal the result rather than, so we tended to just rest on our laurels. And now, I don't know if that's Jack Ross telling the players to do that. I don't know whether that's the players themselves doing that, but it didn't look good when you were watching it. Jack Ross, to be fair, this season I think did have an awful lot to do. Like we said, we had something like 8 players or whatever it was at the start of the season. And although I still believe Sunderland should have been assembling a team that was good enough for the top 2 in League One, Jack Ross, I will give Jack Ross a bit of credit here because, you had to sign a host of players, or basically a whole new team. You had to sign over a whole new team, gel everybody together and hope it works. And very rarely do you have that effect. Usually it takes ages upon ages to come close to assembling a good side and getting everyone to gel into a cohesive unit. So you could argue in that sense finishing 5th was a good one, was a good achievement. However, obviously, it would only have been good if we'd won the playoffs. As a positive note for Jack Ross, though, Jack Ross seemed to be a likeable guy. He seemed to be very thorough about a lot of things that he did. And I will be sentimental to one thing for Jack Ross. He did give me my first experience at Wembley. Because, of course, I didn't get to go to the 2014 final against Man City in the Carabao Cup final. Or Capital One Cup final, I think it was, as it was known then. He gave us the Checker Trade final. And although I wasn't overly bothered about winning that competition, one of my dreams had always been to see Sunderland play at Wembley. And he allowed me to fulfil that dream. I was and I'm always going to remain thankful for Jack Ross for that. Obviously, the playoffs, well, neither the Checker Trade really, but the playoffs especially, did not go according to plan. We beat Portsmouth, who, bear in mind, we had struggled against all season. We beat 1-0 at home in the first leg of the semi-finals, drew 0-0 down there, but we managed, that was one of the best occasions where I've seen Sunderland manage a game properly and really take the sting out of Portsmouth, and it was what we needed to do to get to the final. Then in the final, of course, we went 1-0 up, and in typical fashion, we didn't win the game. Although I would argue for Sean and Tino, as soon as Max Power went off, we felt a difference. So, you know, at the end of the day, Jack Ross did ultimately fail last year, though. That was just that was the ultimate test. In 18-19, Jack Ross did fail, and we can't get away from the fact that he failed. Now, I was still Jack Ross in at that point because I did consider what he had to do and what was still there to do. There was still, you know, it was a losing culture, losing mentality. We had a rotten culture, to be quite honest, and that's why I think we've struggled over the years so many times. Then came the start of, well, what will be last season, probably by the time this video goes up. Last season, in the 2019-2020 season, obviously has ended because of this pandemic. You've got ice cream van going off. God. You've then got, you've lost Cattermole, you've lost Oviedo, you've lost Reece James. There's a host of other players that you've lost. Robin Wright, another one. You've lost a number of players there where wages were ridiculous. Because we didn't get promoted, there was no way we were going to keep these guys again in League One. After, on the whole, a not too bad August, where I think we won 3, drew 2, lost 1 out of 6 league games. Correct us if I'm wrong. September was Jack Ross's final month, and even at the end of this September when we beat MK Dons 2-1, obviously we had an unbeaten September. Sorry, man. At least I think I'm pretty sure we had an unbeaten September, and as it turns out, that was the last full month of Jack Ross's reign. Obviously, we beat Accrington 3-1, we drew 1-1 against Rotherham and Bolton, and then we beat MK Dons 2-1. His last game, however, was a 2-0 defeat away at promoted Lincoln City, which was just dreadful. And I felt sorry for every fan who went down there. Whatever was going on with Ross, it just didn't seem like it was working for him. It didn't seem like the players were fully on side, and in which case that's embarrassing from the players, by the way. But if that is alleged, of course, if that's allegedly true anyway. The time was right for me to get rid of Jack Ross because our football was very pedestrian and negative. And even though Stuart Dahl and Charlie Methven did paint a target on his back by saying, oh, we want to get 100 points, that's what the aim should be. Which at the time I took as showing ambition personally, but it did put a lot of pressure on Jack Ross and I don't think he could cope with it. In the end, I did think it was right to sack Jack Ross. And the biggest thing for me, and Parkinson does this as well, but I'll get onto the next video about Parkinson, in that Jack Ross, for me, was very open to changes and open to changing things around and, giving players a fresh run out in the team when he first came in, but then regressed to the point where he didn't want to make any subs. And Parkinson's done exactly the same thing, which I don't quite get personally. But nevertheless, guys, look, apologies that I've rambled on. This is probably one of the worst ones I've done. I've rambled on a lot. That's my views on Jack Ross, and there you have it. Anyway, guys, I love yous and leave yous. Thanks again to everybody, Wearside Life, everybody. And the next one will be the final one of this series. At least going back through all the managers when we look at Phil Parkinson. Take care.